If your car suddenly clicks but refuses to start, don't panic yet, because in many cases, the problem is much simpler than people think. And one of the biggest mistakes people make is replacing expensive parts before checking the real cause first. A weak battery, bad connections, a failing starter, even a hidden electrical drain can all cause the exact same clicking sound. So in this video, we'll go through the 7 most common reasons your car clicks but won't start, how to recognize each one, and which problems you should check first before wasting money on unnecessary repairs. Number 1. Weak or dead battery. This is the number 1 reason a car clicks but refuses to start. And it fools a lot of people because sometimes the lights still turn on, the radio still works, but the engine still won't crank. Here's what's actually happening. Your battery may still have enough power for small electrical components, but not enough power to turn the starter motor. So instead of cranking the engine, you just hear rapid clicking noises. In most cases, multiple fast clicks usually point to a weak battery. But if you only hear a single solid click instead, the problem can sometimes be related to the starter motor or starter solenoid instead. And in many cases, the battery isn't completely dead, it's just too weak. Here are some common signs. Your headlights look dim, dashboard lights flicker, the radio works weakly, or cuts out while trying to start. And if your battery is more than 3 years old, there's a good chance it's already losing strength. Now here's a quick test. Almost anyone can do. Turn the headlights on, then try starting the car. If the lights suddenly dim hard, or almost shut off completely, the battery is probably weak. You can also test it with a multimeter. A healthy, fully charged battery should read around 12.6 volts. Another simple way to confirm it is with a jump start. If the car starts normally after a jump, but later does the same clicking problem again, that usually means the battery is failing and may need replacement. And this is where many people waste money. They replace the starter motor first, even though the real problem was only a weak battery the entire time. Number 2. Loose or corroded battery connections. Now sometimes, the battery itself is perfectly fine, but the power still can't properly reach the starter. Why? Because the battery terminals or cable connections are loose, dirty, or covered in corrosion. This is actually very common, especially on older vehicles or cars exposed to moisture and heat for years. Here's what happens. The battery may still have plenty of power, but corrosion creates resistance in the connection. So when you try to start the car, the starter doesn't receive enough current, and once again, you hear that rapid clicking sound. One of the easiest signs to spot is white, blue, or greenish buildup around the battery terminals. You may also notice the battery cables feel loose or move around when touched, and sometimes the car may start normally one day, then suddenly refuse to start the next. Now here's the good news. This problem is often one of the cheapest and easiest fixes on the entire list. First, inspect both battery terminals carefully. If you see corrosion buildup, clean it using a wire brush and a mixture of baking soda and water. Then make sure the battery connections are tight and secure, because even a slightly loose terminal can prevent enough power from reaching the starter motor. And here's something many people don't realize. Bad battery connections can act exactly like a dead battery, which is why some people replace a perfectly good battery and still end up with the same clicking problem afterward. Number 3. Faulty starter motor. Now if the battery is good and the battery connections are clean and tight, the next possible problem is the starter motor itself. This is the part responsible for cranking the engine when you turn the key or press the start button. And when the starter begins to fail, one of the most common symptoms is clicking with no engine crank. But here's the important difference. A weak battery usually causes rapid repeated clicking, while a bad starter often causes one single loud click, and then nothing. That single click is usually the starter solenoid engaging, but the motor itself can't spin the engine. And sometimes, the starter may fail only occasionally at first. One day the car starts normally, the next day, nothing. Then suddenly it starts again later like nothing happened. That inconsistency is what confuses a lot of people. Now here's a quick clue that points more toward the starter. If you already tried jump-starting the car, but the engine still refuses to crank, the starter becomes much more suspicious. You may also hear grinding noises or a harsh metallic sound while trying to start the engine. And in some cases, the dashboard lights stay bright the entire time. That usually means the battery still has power, but the starter isn't doing its job. Unfortunately, unlike dirty battery terminals, starter problems usually don't have a simple cheap fix. Most of the time, the starter motor needs to be replaced. But before replacing it, always make sure the battery and battery connections are fully checked first. And if possible, have the problem confirmed by a trusted mechanic, because a weak battery, poor wiring, or bad electrical connections can make a good starter look bad. And a lot of people end up replacing the wrong part because of that. Now, before moving into some of the less common causes, here's something important. Most clicking no-start problems are still caused by battery issues, weak connections, or starter-related problems. That's why checking the basics first can save you a lot of time, money, and frustration. Number 4. Low battery power from a parasitic drain. Now sometimes, the battery and starter may both seem completely fine, yet the car still keeps developing the same clicking problem over and over again. Here's the pattern. You jump start the car. It starts normally. You drive it with no problems. But the next morning, the battery is dead again. That's often a sign of something called a parasitic drain. This means something in the car keeps using battery power, even after the engine is turned off. Sometimes it's something simple, like an interior light staying on, but in other cases, it can come from a faulty relay, electrical module, or another hidden electrical problem. And here's why this causes clicking. While the car sits, the battery slowly loses power in the background. Then, when you try starting the engine later, there's not enough power left for the starter motor. So all you hear is rapid clicking. Now here's one of the biggest clues. The car usually starts fine immediately after a jump start. But after sitting overnight, the exact same problem comes back again. And this is where many people waste money. They replace the battery, the car works for a few days. Then suddenly the clicking returns again. Because the real problem was never the battery itself, something was draining it the entire time. So if your battery keeps dying repeatedly for no obvious reason, a parasitic drain is definitely something worth checking. Number 5. Bad alternator. Now sometimes, the battery keeps going weak no matter how many times you recharge it. The car may start fine after a jump start, but before long, the clicking problem comes back again. And in many cases, the real problem isn't the battery at all. It may actually be the alternator. The alternator's job is to recharge the battery while the engine is running. So if the alternator stops charging properly, the battery slowly loses power every time you drive. Eventually, the battery becomes too weak to start the engine, and all you hear is clicking. Now here's what makes this problem confusing. You can often jump start the car successfully, drive it normally, and think everything is fixed. But later, the battery goes weak again. That's one of the biggest warning signs of a charging problem. You may also notice symptoms like flickering dashboard lights, dim headlights at idle, or strange electrical behavior while driving. And in many cars, the battery warning light may turn on as well. And here's where many people waste money. They replace the battery, the car works temporarily, then the exact same problem returns again. Because the real issue was never the battery. The alternator simply wasn't charging it properly. So if the battery keeps dying repeatedly, even after charging or replacing it, the alternator should definitely be tested. Number 6. Faulty starter solenoid or relay. Now sometimes, the starter motor itself is completely fine, but the components controlling it may be failing instead. When you turn the key or press the start button, the starter relay and starter solenoid help send power to the starter motor. But if either one stops working properly, the starter may not engage correctly, and instead of cranking the engine, all you hear is clicking. Now this problem often gets confused with a weak battery, but here's an important difference. With a bad relay or solenoid, the battery may still seem strong. The lights stay bright, the electronics work normally, yet the engine still refuses to crank. And sometimes, the problem comes and goes randomly. One moment the car won't start at all, Then later, it suddenly starts like nothing ever happened. This is where many people make an expensive mistake. They replace the entire starter motor, even though the real problem was only the relay or solenoid controlling it. So if the battery is healthy, the battery connections are clean, but the starter still won't engage properly, a faulty starter relay or solenoid becomes much more likely. Number 7. Worn out ignition switch. Now sometimes, the clicking or no start problem feels completely random. The car may start normally for days, then suddenly refuse to crank without warning. And one possible cause behind that is a worn-out ignition switch. The ignition switch is responsible for sending the starting signal when you turn the key or press the start button. But over time, the internal contacts inside the switch can wear out or become inconsistent. When that happens, the signal going to the starter system may become weak or fail completely. So instead of starting normally, you may only hear a click or nothing at all. And what makes this problem confusing is that it often comes and goes randomly. Sometimes the car starts perfectly fine, then later refuses to respond at all. You may also notice small warning signs, like flickering dashboard lights, a loose feeling key, or the engine starting only after moving the key slightly while turning it. Now this is where many people get misled, because the battery and starter often test completely fine, yet the real problem is actually the ignition switch itself. So if the starting system seems normal, but the clicking or no start problem keeps returning unpredictably, the ignition switch is definitely something worth considering. So if your car only clicks but refuses to start, don't immediately assume the engine is ruined or the starter is completely bad. In many cases, the real problem turns out to be something much simpler, like a weak battery or poor battery connections. The key is checking the most common causes first, before replacing expensive parts unnecessarily. And sometimes, a few quick tests can save you hundreds of dollars and a lot of frustration. If this video helped you understand what might be causing the problem, make sure to check out the other repair and diagnosis videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.